you're fired. Get out of here.
You dick! You dick!
Men! Prepare to defend yourselves!
You dick! 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 You.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's Huntington. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle
no
for you.
longer
Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children may be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great Republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kernke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, west, northeast, south, southwest, and central. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4MG.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com in memoriam, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, the outlying two territories, and the clock. Right now it is 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is Friday, Cinco de Mayo Day and Quartermaster Friday. And because of the calendar this year, you're going to see this more and more. We're falling on these days with the even week end. So it is the 14th of February. Dun, dun, dun. Wait a minute, it's the 14th of February. It's Friday the 14th, which means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. Anyway. It is Valentine's Day, though. That's one of the reasons we couldn't have the Patriot meeting tonight, because Valentine's Day. But tomorrow, with the 15th, we have the meetup down in Hillsdale, Michigan. That's going to be, of course, we'll follow up with more information on that in a minute. Anyway, it is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020, Old Earth calendar. 2020, year of conflict, year of betrayal, year of battle, and interesting to say the least. A couple things real quick. There was a couple of, I got two spikes, and I got a couple of emails from our friends this morning out of the conversation that we had last night on the air about the snatch and grabs. And AP Hill is the facility that in Virginia that would be in fact, old site, by the way. It's not like it's a spring chicken facility just dropped out of nowhere, but that's typical with a lot of stuff on the East Coast. I mean, how much room do you really have? But both AP Hill and, of course, you have the Marine Corps, well, 3 different Marine Corps urban warfare sites, one official, the other 2 quietly tucked off to the side we're not supposed to know about, so everybody's watching those and pretty well is on track with it. The AP Hill site has all of the Americana. Oh, they put a mosque in there, too. Well, in theory, it could also be a Greek Orthodox church, by the way. You should remember that. If you pay attention to what a lot of the mosques were that were converted, they originally were Orthodox church, Christian Orthodox churches, before the fall of Constantinople. Remember? Yeah. They didn't tear the buildings down. They just reoccupied them and did other things with them. You know, like tear all the Christian stuff down and put all the Muslim stuff up. This is how it works. Anyway, so it is Cinco de Amo Day. It is Quartermaster Friday. A couple of things. I'm going to mention this now because I think our people need to swamp this. If you have an M10 mask or an M10M, prices on the filters and stuff are jacking. They've doubled and then they've doubled again in some cases, or they doubled and then they sold out. So they're not going to double again simply because they don't have any more to sell. So don't be surprised there. A lot of the companies that, especially those that really aren't up on what's been, they aren't really worried or they're not concerned. It's not the center of their surplus market or their surplus operation, have some NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical defense technology on board. But because of this, they actually hit some minimal part. It's like a fingernail scraping off to the side. So when they get hit, they're not really worried because it's, replacement is not critical or replacement has simply not been desirable or possible, okay? There's a couple of reasons there with the industry, soft or expensive, depending on the situation. So militaryclothing.com, militaryclothing.com. That's www.militaryclothing.com. When you get there, go over to, well, actually, the best way to do it is don't go over to, let's just do it this way. It's going to be a short search. Go punch in gas masks. Now, when you punch in gas masks, and first of all, again, let's do this again. We're going to go www.militaryclothing.com, militaryclothing.com. Now, they have a whole bunch of stuff on these pages, and they do have some great clearance prices on certain things. Sometimes on boots, there's a number of clearance subjects. In fact, what's interesting is, unlike most web pages, the third item down on the left is bargains and closeouts. You always want to go through there, and the only thing I will say is their page, they haven't changed their page in years, which is good. So once you know how to manage it, it's not hard to use. But it is kind of eclectic and twitchy when it comes to going through the page. Let me give you an example. Clearance, second markdown, take another peek for savings. Items that just arrived, check them out. Of course, that's not going to be a sale item. Make room for next container, super markdowns, and then you've got sales, and then you've got reduced for quick sale, which I've never been able to figure out the difference between that and then make room for the next container because, of course, a lot of stuff overlaps. The big thing is that the pages also are irregular in where the product is and what the product is. So be patient, and you've got to go through quite a few pages to get through everything. But there are some decent buys on clothing, definitely on certain unique items. Like, for instance, they got the best price for a pair of tanker coveralls in the whole system. Unfortunately, they're in the small, in the short, large, and I think short, medium size. They may be out of one or the other. I'd have to look. But they are out there, so you might want to check them out. Manuals are another thing. Well, go right through, see what they have, and see what's worthwhile and of interest and make sense price-wise to you, okay? But we're here for a reason. We're on a mission. Gas mask is what I am going to punch in. Now, that search is pretty straightforward. There's only going to be so many NBC items, and in fact, most they don't really have. Also, a SWAT vest shows up. I don't know why the hell that's there. Again, an eclectic, twitchy website, but they have some good prices. Well, what do they have a good price on? Well, here we go. They do not have the check gas mask. It's the best price in the country if they had it, but they don't have it, and they're out, and they look there. They were supposed to fill in the blank last September. What month is it now? I don't think that's going to get filled. They do have, and it's the only thing they do have in stock, check gas mask filter for the M10. Now, the single filter is still not a bad price, $2 a piece. But, guys, look right next to the listing there, and you'll see where it says 10-pack of check gas mask filters for the M10 or M10M. $16 for 10 sets of filters. Now, these are in the foil, in the plastic bags. They're double packed. I love it. You know how I like it when there's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of protection for whatever goodie is inside. Why? Because we want those goodies to last, okay? But this is the best price in the country. They don't have anything else. On the page, pretty much the only other thing they do have are the plastic clear lenses for the possum mask. If you do need those, that actually is a good price, 5 pairs for 49 cents. Can't go wrong on that either. But that's the only 2 items they have. The check gas mask filters and the clear lenses for the SCHM41 gas mask. And those are basically the outserts. They're like the cover lens that goes over the other lens. Anyway, 10-pack of check gas mask filters for the M10 or the M10M, and they are $16 for 10. Turnaround time is really good. Did not take long. You do have to pay a little bit of shipping. Live with it, because even with the shipping, these things are still a very good price. And if you catch them right, unfortunately, they just dropped the free shipping here that they had. It had been running for a long time, so we just missed that. It was, I think, $79 or $59, can't recall. But with as much stuff as we buy, every time you buy, like the filters, you buy a big lump of them. But if you have an M10M, or if you were looking at buying some of the, let's see, I think, Maine Military still has some of the M10Ms in stock. And they're three for $40 right now, which makes them the best price in the country for a support mask. But cheap filters, lots of them. Masks, cheap, lots of them. And pile them up that way. So you got to cherry pick. You go from one place to the next, and you can pretty well square your technology away. Now, I would point out, we know it's the Chipmunk Cheeks. You don't have to tell me. Please, if some idiot sitting next to you who's never listened to the program goes, well, he didn't know what he's talking about because he's the M17 type and blah, blah. Go slap him for me, please. Go slap that twit for me before we go any farther. I'm holding. I'm waiting right now. Oh, there we go. Good. Smack that idiot in the face. Because you can bring him up to speed about why we bring up these masks, simply because nobody is going to have enough, okay? Number one. Number two, price is right. Number three, the idiot stick who said, I don't need a mask, is going to look really stupid standing there when 9 of you have masks. And number 10 is watching the green vapor start to come under the door, and he starts scrabbling like a rat, like a trapped rat, because he is a trapped rat. And all of a sudden he's going to go, where's my gas mask? And it's like, no. No, you can't have my gas mask. And unlike the BS in the Terminator movie, we're not going to share a gas mask, okay? We are going to have enough gas masks to go around, at least for our people. Okay? Do you see how that works? But I'm always fascinated how the dinkwad that usually is there, I don't need none of them gas masks. What is that for? And, well, there's 9 of you in the room, and I should say 10 in the room, and 9 have a gas mask. Watch to see how number 10 acts when there is a pressing need for one. Scrabbling at your face, chewing on your ankles, twitching and thrashing and shouting at you about they're smarter than you are because, well, before they were telling you they were smarter than you are when they didn't buy a gas mask. But the reason they need your gas mask and why you don't is because they're going to tell you they're smarter than what they're smarter than you because, wait a minute, I have a gas mask, you don't. Who's smarter again? Looking pretty stupid down there, turning blue, Bob. Yeah, see how that works? So anyway, just heads up. And again, those will be the last words you hear from the fools that are telling you don't need a gas mask. And it'll only be about 3 minutes worth of anyway, the fools. As it is, any mask will do in a storm, but this especially for those of you who are planning on having reserves. And again, remember, you can do the M10M, the M17, or the batch of Polish mask that just came in, which appeared to have pretty much total copacetic parts transition from the M17 to their mask, which we think is rather interesting. I'm getting the bad feeling I got about 7 years ago that, there's stuff we obviously suspected, but as we get older, we find out we were right and we knew the truth, and you kind of went, So we were being played every step of the way. But we expect that, okay? It's not a surprise. So when they were done with the molds for the M17, they just sold them to the Iron Curtain to the other side, and the guys that were going to be shooting at us and killing us, and did to a certain degree, depending on where you were in the world, were being provided with all the technology to be able to get out there and shoot and kill you with reckless abandon, with all the other technology they needed. Wow, what a surprise. So anyway, heads up on that. Again, that's militaryclothing.com. If you have the M10 or M10N gas mask, these are the original stock filters. They are 10 filter sets in the foil, in the plastic, virgin. I've got a pile of them sitting in the other room right now. I mention it because we got ours. Because this has happened before. I mentioned it on the air, and then we don't get ours. So we got ours. We're good. Now, sweep in there if you need M10M filters. That's where you go, M10 or M10M. And that's for the Czech or the East German masks. Let's see. Next, now that I got that covered, and that's militaryclothing.com, militaryclothing.com, militaryclothing.com. And the title is 10-pack of Czech gas mask filters for M10-M10M. $16, 10 filters. Filter sets. Got to make sure you get both sides. Not just one, and you got to hold your hand over the hole on the other side. It's so embarrassing if you try to do that in combat. I guess you could get away with it, but I'd probably use duct tape. What the hell? That way, I'd still be breathing something, right? Just coughing half as much. Next, in supply and support, real quick, another thing, Maine Military still seems to be the best for having the broadest stock of inventory left in the system right now. I've gone through everything last night to the wee hours of the morning, and there are one or two other items that have been picked up, like Sportsman's Guide, for instance. Something was interesting there. They grabbed another mask, and I know right where it came from because there were only 2 batches of these that came out of government sales. And they actually, I was surprised because typically they don't let gas masks out. But this particular one could come out because it was not considered technically a combat mask, even though for all practical purposes it's obviously going to be, okay? Anyway, they've got a couple of, they've got another American system that was up on the auction block about 6 months ago, and then one more batch about 4 months ago, if they still have them here on the shelf. Here we go. U.S. military surplus, Avon FM12 gas mask with NATO filter. Now, I'm not going to say it's cheap. They're $72 if you're a club member and $80 if you're not. But this mask is more than serviceable. You have seen it as a theater prop in movies. You've also seen it in sci-fi and industrial operations too. It's a functional, real piece of equipment. They work. There's nothing wrong with them. They do take 40 millimeter filters, and they're not far off the price of where the the M15 Israeli has gone to $80, well $81 if you're the club member. And so they're parallel. And if it was a choice, somebody asked me that was an email, and I'll mention it on the air. Somebody said, it was a choice between the M15 and the Avon, FM12, which would you go? Now, the American really, for the most part, even though, again, now the one thing that you have is a big, big advantage with the M15 is, and by the way, it's not Israeli, it's a German mask. The Israelis don't make squat, people. They lie, and they cheat, they steal, they lever, they blackmail, and then they put their name on it. It's what they do. It's like the Galil rifle, an AK-47 that the Israelis make in a really crappy fashion, okay? Anyway, the M15 does have a few advantages in terms of depth in spare parts. The Avons have been around, but not in as great a quantity. So it's a toss. The American, though, there are a lot of these still in the system, by the way, the FM12s, and they're going to be around for quite some time simply because once government buys a big pile of this stuff, they just hangs around. Okay, you won't see it. They won't give it to you for civil defense or anything. Hell with that. You're screwed. But for the DoD or any of the agencies, yeah, it's going to pop up here and there. You're going to see it as part of the PPE equipment, which is originally what it was intended for, by the way. So that's why it's not really a first priority military mask, but it is a PPE item, personal protective equipment for cleanup, spills, any number of other threats that may occur. And most important is it's standard for American parts. It is an American-made company that produced it. Oh, there is a foreign NATO contract number and a producer overseas. I don't know who that is. Could be Belgium, could be Holland. Holland gets a lot of little contracts like that. So that's another mask that has been added. It ain't cheap. To be quite honest, you can buy how many of the lesser masks for the price of one of these other types. And again, the prices now, because of the way they've slid up with Sportsman's Guide, Maine Military is ahead of the pack right now. Price for the same product. You get a better price for a lot of the items still at MaineMilitary.com. 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 And again, go take a look at what's there, though. You might find something you need or that matches what you're presently using. I do agree that if you're trying to create a close, standardized system, pick the mechanisms that make sense for you, and hug to them. Stay focused, stay on course. I'm not going to misdirect you in any way, shape, or form, because everybody has their own idea of how their logistics system should be set up. And guess what? You're all right, except for the idiot who says you don't need a gas mask. Again, turn to him, hit him with a club, smack him like a baby seal, and hopefully he'll twitch on the floor there for a minute and no longer be a problem. Okay? Yeah, you do it now. Once again, did he get up? Oh, hit him again. There you go. There, good guy. Now, next, and again, we're on to Friday here, Cinco de Amo Day, is ball ammunition. I cannot emphasize that enough. For a lot of you guys, you're going to need quantity. And we're still going to be not spraying and praying, but you're still going to need quantity. You need to have so much ammunition on the shelf so that at the very least you can load every magazine you've got. Okay, think this way. Get to that level. Well, how many mags do you have? How many times can you reload those mags? Now, to be quite honest, whatever number of mags you have, you don't have enough. Well, Mark, you said to buy 100 mags, and I have 100 mags. Yep, and now your goal, you've reached 100. Now it's time to go to 200. Why? Well, because you want to tactically distribute. This should be the center of your universe right now. You're not going to lose a penny. In fact, the biggest thing is if you had spent money like on the gas mask a month ago or 2 months ago when Uncle Mark told you to, all your gas masks would be cheaper, wouldn't they? Had when we pointed out certain points where it's, points of interest like, hey, there's a great price for one mag or the other, then you could have enough mags so that you could fill up every combat bag you got, every pouch you've got, and get to level 1. Okay, think about it as you're on the table and you're at level 1. You got everything filled. It's all functional. No, it's not. It's not the super, Mercedes-Benz name brand blah 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 or the latest widget. Who cares? It works. In fact, let me compare it this way. If you've got, hex mags are probably the best example. Hex mags were big when they came out. Everybody made all kinds of write-ups about them. They love hex mags. They're not the cat's meow now because Magpul, of course, has got the market for the moment. But tons of hex mags out there, and hex mag is still in the industry and still in the business. They're still doing what they're doing. But you can find some really good prices on hex mags. I wouldn't hesitate to grab, if somebody dropped them down to $3 or $4 or $5 a piece even, I'd be grabbing a pile of those if I was still short mags. And if somebody goes, well, I want Magpul. Yeah, but how many of the other mags, if they're cheaper, can you get? Can you fill every mag pouch up right now? Now, the next chance that you get, once you accumulate more digits, more shekels, more simoleons, more clams, more whatever currency you're running, it could be PayPal money, okay? Then you target the next deal and you buy a quantity of the Magpul. Now, do you get rid of the hex mags? Oh, hell no. If you feel that you need that certain model of Magpul because it's just, your life wouldn't live without it, you just can exist without it, you take the hex mags, you drop the ammo for the time being, and you put them in your reserve on standby, ready to reload and ready to rock, with the rest of your mags when the time comes for your breakout kits and for your auxiliary combat loads. Why not? double up and double up and double up again. Here's the thing. Once you have a complete second set, take that and put that over at Fred's place out in the middle of BFE. Take a barrel, load it up with all your basic combat gear that's all your spares. Take your combat load with the magazines and your spare pistol, that high-point pistol, which everybody laughs at, but guess what? You can afford to put guns in other places because they don't cost as much, and you'll still put nice leaking holes in things. And then you can take whatever HK or SIG the enemy combatants are carrying. But it'll get you on the table if you got stuck away from the house and you see that they're going through the neighborhoods and they've already got your house surrounded, and your neighbor calls them and goes, "Bob, they're at your place. They're tearing it apart. They're killing everybody." Well, you know what? Wading in with nothing ain't going to make it, but you can go to a second location. Congratulations, you're armed up, and now you can get revenge. Now you can go seek, you've got a vendetta to fill, and you make sure you fill it. And you're not going there, screaming harsh language, using a 3-inch folding knife because it's what you're allowed to carry in public. And you're not going to be doing a last-ditch bonsai charge. Now you go out and make a list, find out who did what they did to your home, kill every last one of the bastards. Systematically, and go pew, 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 or club them like a baby seal if you need to. But you need auxiliary equipment stashed, stowed, tucked away at as many different locations as possible. You may have your friend showing up with a bath towel around him. He just ran from the house at the last minute. He had all kinds of good stuff. He got out. The guns didn't. So you know who Fred is, and Bob's talking to Fred, and it's like, well, Fred, I got everything you need right here. Let's get you some clothes. Put that extra pair of boots on I got over there in the closet with those other spares I picked up. Grab a pair that fit you. And let's go get rid of the problem that just bothered your house. See how that works? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Go ahead, caller. Jump in there, please. Uh-oh. We got you, caller. Oh.
Hello?
We got you. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I was about to say I had an idea concerning vacuum sealing. You can get rolls of the vacuum seal bagging that you can make your own length of bag, which would mean that you can make a vacuum seal bag to hold a whole, like simple bolt action rifle, like a Nagant or almost anything, and vacuum seal it before you put it in a barrel. And then that thing's just going to be sitting there for the next 100 years, or until whoever picks it up and unseals the bag.
Exactly. Well, see, that's one of the things, depending upon what your ambition is, again, for caching, that should be our goal. We should be able to pack stuff literally pack stuff away so that 100 years from now, you could return, and whatever's in that storage point should be functional. That should be your goal, people. That should be our ambition, our mission. Okay, so we have to figure out how to make that happen. And multiple layered packing and vacuum packing, especially for vacuum bags, making your own vacuum bags with vinyl, for instance. Here's a little trick. When you open up those MREs, why are you tearing the bag up? You do know that you can pull a vacuum on that bag and reseal it. In fact,
and those are very tough bags, too.
Yeah, they're tough arse bag, and you put whatever you just seal and milled in that bag and then seal it up. Here's a little hint. Remember that those brown, or especially the older brown MREs, now the new ones, I don't know what they did with those, because I've noticed it looks to be a different polymer because it is in tan. But the original ones had an anti-rodent and anti-insect repellent in the plastic. That was the first layer of defense past the cardboard box that everything was in. Those pouches actually are designed to help preserve in remote or in unusual locations the material, prevent it from being completely ransacked by the vermin that usually you run into if it's not protected. So just a little heads up there. But those are tough, like I said, those are tough butt bags. And all you do is take a black, big, wide tip marker, and whatever you want to, do, first X out whatever's on the outside, draw a line through it, put a label on the sucker on both sides to explain what it is, and put it in the container. So you want to go one step farther, Put, depending on what it is, put them in ammo cans, put them in the barrels. I mean, if you want to go that, that won't say extreme, but if you want to go to that level of toughness, you could. But it's just a matter of personal preference. More layers of defense you put between it, you still want more stuff than you want weight in transport can. That's the only thing you got to remember. But if it's a cache, it's not going anywhere. Anything in the box is going somewhere. So that's one of the reasons it's not bad to be putting things in ammo cans or have transport bags and everything inside the cache ready to be used, so you can repack everything and pack everything for mobility and on foot on RCAO with everything you've got, or at least most of what you got. If there's more than one of you, it shouldn't be a problem getting everything. But in a cache, you have clothing, underpants, T-shirts, socks, uniforms, basic clothing, cold weather gear, wet weather gear. Everything should be there in multiples, if at all possible. Fire starters, combustibles, foodstuffs, ammunition, weapons, spare parts, radio communications if you want to spend the money, if you can. With FRS radios, there's no reason not to be able to do that nowadays. So all of that should be in the cache. Now, if you can save money in one area, then you can afford to double up in the way we're talking about, if not triple up. But it should be a religious process right now. You should you've already had if you're listening here, you probably have already had your epiphany anyway. It's like, oh yeah, we're screwed. Something's going on. Now what do we do? The other thing here about caching, because everybody always asks, where can I put it? Well, the first place is find out if you got an uncle or a cousin who's got a farm. And find out if he's got a big barn, if he's using or not using it. Find a nice corner or again, make up a space that can be accessed, ideally out of sight, out of mind. That's half the battle. If what the eyes cannot see, the heart does not long for. But the nice thing is, Uncle Fred or Bob or Cousin Willie, whoever it is, help out a little bit there. You can also, depending how big it is, the facility, and how much he is using or not using, you might even be able to cache a truck, piece of transport there. You might be able to do all kinds of things, even inside, out of sight, out of mind, but also out of the weather. Weatherize the piece of equipment you leave behind. Make sure that everything is there that you need to be able to operate the vehicle. Fuel storage can be on site. You know what? If you don't make it, it's still there. Your cousin or your uncle or your grandpa, he can use the stuff. You might need it anyway, depending on the situation. But one way or another, you've got that insurance policy, and it's your insurance policy. You own it. And you do it with what's already paid for or what's on the cheap. I keep doing it over and over and over, repeat over and over again. That's why I get all these M10 gas mask filters. I get a pile of M10s. They're going to another cache. They're all going to be the same gas mask going into the same click, and they'll all be M10s at that particular point. Oh, by the way, there still will be some 40-millimeter filters there, too, and probably some 40-millimeter masks, because I have a pile of those I can spread out. But one way or another, there will be enough, more than what I need for my personal use, because I've earmarked the resources. And of course, I've also made a point, I bought when it was cheap, so I can afford to spread out 100 of something, or 20 of something, or 50 of something. Everybody could do the same thing. You all got the same time, and if you, like I said, if you do pennies instead of dollars, you can have multiples. See, that's why that may not be that's not the state-of-the-art mask, but that M10M, for the price that you're getting it for, it'll do for what it's supposed to do and for all the basics. It'll get you through the situation, and again, also help out a friend or other family members if that's the case, or, again, maybe a whole new group of troops that don't have anything. You've recruited more men. Other people have had their epiphanies. Their neighborhood's been ransacked. Family members been killed. There's a bunch of things that are going to bring people to the war and to our side. And the idiots on the other side are more than capable of fumble bumming through that left, right, up, and down constantly because of their arrogance. Like I said, good. Let them keep pushing. Let them keep pissing on people. We need that. That needs to happen. That's why. Now, you need to be prepared. Everybody always yaps about, what can we do, or how what could we do if blah, blah, blah. Well, you're the one that's going to be the solution, not somebody else. All of you are the answer. All of you are the solution, okay? Real quick also, unammo.com. Actually, I was going to do one other here first, but I'm going to go to UN Ammo. It's not the only one out there. In fact, no, I'm going to do AIM first. AIM Surplus. AIM Surplus, by the way, does have some odds and ends deals. They have an odd conduit, probably the same jobber as everybody else does at the trade show, but they do have, well, we just got a bunch of Glocks in, as a matter of fact. Glock 23s, $300.95, law enforcement trade-ins, which can be anything from slightly used to hanger queens that actually never even left the armory and then got dumped because somebody needed the latest widget, okay? Which leads me to something I would point out, okay, again. If I have a Gen 1 Glock, is my Gen 1 Glock inferior or useless or garbage now? See, when the Gen 1's Glocks came out and the Gen 2s and then the Gen 3s, I mean, each one was the cat's meow, but does that mean that when the new one came out, my older Glock was now a dysfunctional, irrelevant / trashy piece of junk that I need to get rid of? But before, when I was looking at all the propaganda, it was the gun I needed to have. It was the latest thing. And it's like, well, I have a Glock. Well, no, but there's a new Glock out, and your old Glock is now grossly inferior. Well, how is my old Glock grossly inferior when, wait a minute, when I pull out all of the propaganda that was done, 2.5 years ago when I bought it, my Glock was the cat's meow, and wait a minute, it's the same stinking propaganda they're using for the Gen 4. It's the latest. It's the greatest. It shines everything else, well, including your own guns. Well, yeah, that's why we made a Gen 4. So your Gen 2s and Gen 1s are totally inferior and could explode in my hands, or they've gone soft, have they rotted, or have they... Well,
stale.
No. Yeah, I always laugh when it's like, well, it's a Gen 4. Oh, that's nice. It's like, I do like cars. It's the same way. I don't have... I'm not going to buy ever the latest Lincoln Continental Mark fill in the blank, right? Because it looks like a bubble gum, looks like a jelly bean car like anybody else's now. But it used to be, when it went from like the Mark III to the Mark IV, there was a significant change, and they were both interesting, right? In this case, it's like, well, looks just like the other Glock. Oh, no, but there's so significant a number of little widget cuts that they did in the plastic polymer frame. Was it still a plastic polymer frame? Yeah. Does it have a steel slide? Yeah. Barrel? Yeah. Anything new that I should know about with regard to is there... what was the big master stroke on these? Well, nothing really except for the plastic sculpting on the outside of the same polymer stock. Oh, well then I think I'll just keep the Glock I got because it seems to work just fine. I haven't shot it out yet that I know of. Maybe they know something I don't. Oh, those bastards. Yeah, those bastards. So anyway, just a heads up. That's what's cute because the trade-ins are out there now. There's a pile of trade-ins. Glocks are a drug in the market. And let's not forget, if you haven't seen it, I guess I'll mention this. If you go over to Palmetto State Armory, the Glock patents have all expired on the Mark III, the Gen 3s. So anybody can make a Glock just like anybody can make a 1911. Now, over at Palmetto, they've got a Glock knockoff, and it's got a lot of bells and whistles that the regular Glocks don't even have, and it's under $300. So wait a minute, I can get a brand new Glock pistol look-alike that is all the parts interchange. Every part off a Gen 3 pistol goes right onto this other pistol. Hey, wait a minute. It's $300 for a used gun here, but I can get the same gun over at Palmetto brand new with more bells and whistles on it for the same price. For the exact same price. Yeah, I know. That's one of the problems with the arms industry. And in fact, they know it, too. That's why they have to do all these propaganda, lame things to attack, other people's guns to try and make you believe that you need that latest widget, and that latest widget is the only widget that'll work. When in reality, all of them work pretty well, or they wouldn't crank them out the way they did. So anyway, it's a matter of flavor choice. And, again, do you like Mustangs, Camaros, or do you like Challengers? Take your pick. The Glock 21 Gen 3 45 autos they've got for $350. Now, what I was looking for, are there other trade-ins, but I don't see, and this is the problem where they just changed up the page again. They actually have some pretty good prices on a lot of the other former service pistols. And in fact, typically, I haven't mentioned this in a while, they're usually about 20% cheaper, depending on what it is when it first comes out. Now, it doesn't stay that way, but they do actually have some very, very, very good prices on a lot of their surplus pistols. But the surplus pistol market has been very soft for quite some time, so I'm not holding my breath to see anything all that new or exciting at AIM surplus or anywhere else for that matter. The only thing we're going to see now is the polymer, Punka guns coming out in force as used as they go to the next. The example is there was a pile of SIGs. I don't know what department or what Fed agencies, it's probably a combination of the two, have been dumping the equipment on the market right now. But again, for what you're looking at with some of the stuff that's now chomping at their heels, you can get the same basic gun in what is an other production pistol and get it for a pretty good price. So that's where the toss-up is. Now, the other thing that AIM does have is they do have some SKS parts, and they have a little SKS parts section. It's not very big now because they have gone through most of it, but they do have some things on the shelf. So if you're interested, go check it out. Go to aimsurplus.com, and you can punch in a search for SKS parts. Or again, don't forget with AIM, the big thing that they have a really great connection with Privy Partisan Ammo. If you have any of the orphan rifles out there, they're not obsolete because the ammunition is still available. The only disadvantage is the military ammunition that used to make the guns cheap to shoot has pretty well run out. So accept that. That's why they're orphans. But the most common one everybody keeps running into, some guy sent me a picture of one of these rifles the other day. Actually, it was 2 days ago. It was a Lebel. He was wondering, what in the hell is this thing? It's got a little rust on it. It's lunky. It's heavy. Oh, that's sounding French. And then it's like, it doesn't have a safety. Oh, yeah, that really doesn't sound like it's anything but French. And lo and behold, mon Dieu, once he finally sent me another picture of the receiver, I could see the, Force de Défense and all of the rest of the symbols that were necessary along with the ordnance markings. And it's an 8mm Lebel. The only problem is it's one of those that takes the 3-round stripper clip, the Mannlicher type stripper clip. And your best bet for those right now is, as I've mentioned many times, e-sarcoinc.com. e-sarcoinc.com. They do have the stripper clips, the Mannlicher type foil, the Lebel type, the Lebel model, the Carcano, and they're not cheap anymore. They used to be pennies. They're not pennies anymore. But they are out there in force. And by the way, while I'm talking, the Bambis have wandered into view on the south field and are grazing in the tall grass right now. If it were the right season and we were actually in trouble, I'd have to break away from this and you'd hear, and we make sure it didn't go too far before I have to shoot a second time. And then we'd be gutting it after the program. Because I figure wouldn't leave the field. Not if I get a good side shot on this one. Anyway, other stuff going on right now. We're at 5:47 p.m., so I'm going to stick on the supply and support just a little bit longer here, and then we're going to switch over to Virginia. Okay. Last but not least, over at Gun Parts Corp, a lot of guys have been buying the M14s. Go over to the deal section. Go over to the closeout section. There are a bunch of M14 and other goodies. There's a pile of magazines right now. Ruger mags. How many of you have Rugers out there? They have a bunch of stick 20 round, and I think there's some a little bigger, and 30 round, but those are for the Smith & Wesson and the Marlin. These are one Smith & Wesson 59 series, 69 series, 910 and 915, 30 round stick mag for $20. They have the Marlin Camp 9 30 round mags, which, by the way, a lot of your other staggered pistol mags will fit in that gun. Again, $20. If you have the old Marlin Camp carbine, get a pile of these mags because the price is right. Now, otherwise, they also have a bunch of large 20 round Ruger mags for the P89, P95, P95 DC, It's in the P85 Mark II. $20 a piece, 20-round mags, Triple K produced, and they do have in good quantity. That's not why I brought you here, but when I see it, I'll mention it on the air because it's something that is useful to some of you because you have the guns that those particular tools go into, those mags. The M14 parts, there are a number of deals right now, but most important, they have it's the winter mitten trigger for the M14, and they also have one for the Garand. They really are pretty much the same. I don't know that there was ever a change in those. But they list both separately. These are an add-on item. It just clips to the gun very quickly, and when it's set into place, instead of sticking your finger in the trigger guard, you just squeeze the stock. You squeeze the lever, which fires, pulls the trigger, which fires the weapon. So it's kind of like a pew, 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 pew. All you just squeeze, 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 squeeze. You don't have to take your finger out of the trigger finger mitten. You just simply use the whole grip of your hand to fire the weapon in extreme cold weather. This is a good idea. So again, that is over at gunpartscorp.com. Go through the deals/clearance section. Look to see what they have there that is available. And again, there's all kinds of other odds and ends items, always too numerous to mention, like 20 pages worth of stuff. So whatever you find, congratulations. Surprise! Another thing here with regard to Numeric is, /Gun Parts Corp, Numeric Arms. If you have anything else where you are looking for a part that's missing, Numeric is a good choice. It actually seems to be a little ahead of Sarco on things right now. I don't know what's going on with Sarco. I know that they are juggling some things around. Could be the next generation has taken over, and there's always a hiccup when the younger guys take over from dad or dad and uncle or whoever. But Gun Parts Corp is a very reliable company for making a point of really doubling over on the effort to make sure they get you what it is that you need. So if you're looking for particular small parts, springs, extractors, ejectors, if they're available, gunpartscorp.com. So that's a heads up there. One last thing on the deal section. They've got some 30 caliber cleaning rods. Now these will work for the Springfield, the Garand, the Browning machine gun. They are military. They are not something aftermarket. They're still in the wrapper. They got a quantity price on them, and the price is good. So go check it out, and that's over in the deal section over in clearance, along with a bunch of other 30 caliber stuff that is relevant to you M14 and M1 Garand operators, okay, for any of you guys who are running that equipment. And by the way, we'll work on a carbine. Remember, that's 30 caliber also. So enough on that. Now, with what's going on over this or into the next week, and I have not looked at guns and gadgets today. Forgive me, guys. I was out accumulating wealth because...
Hey, Mark.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just an aside, this is Fluffy. Remember I told you about that Cobra radio that I picked up the other day? At the same Goodwill, I also picked up an Archer, which, if anyone remembers, was from Radio Shack. CB Watt and SWR meter for $4.
Oh, yeah. Let's pick it up.
2 dials to let you know how much power you're putting out and the SWR measurement. In perfect shape.
A lot of guys actually just left the meter attached. There's no reason not to. Most people don't realize that. A lot of guys that buy a meter and just leave it on the line. I mean, there's no reason you can't. I mean, but it was one of those things where, you can tweak and tune as you go, and if you see anything drifting, then you adjust accordingly next time that you're not broadcasting. But, it was one of those things that, it can be done. So if you got it and it's cheap enough, you leave it hooked right up to your base station rig and have it right there on the counter where it's accessible and, readable as while you're working. It doesn't hurt.
No, not in the least. And I thought for $4, it would be just disrespectful of the opportunity to grab it, not to.
Interestingly enough, okay, come on. I've got a 4-pod keyboard operator trying to help me here. Interestingly enough, that was one of the other things over at Facebook Marketplace. I have noticed that, yes, because all the other support equipment, meters, also dead load antennas, for doing bench testing, There's a bunch of stuff, too numerous to mention, but if you guys know what you're looking for, Facebook Marketplace, scour it, guys. There's a ton of stuff coming through there. And like you said, the resale shops, the Goodwill may or may not know what they've got there. One place that, the prices have been relatively reasonable, but somebody has stepped in and the prices have all, gone up. So we're going to have to back off for a little bit at certain spots. That means we'll scour the others. But there's always something laying around out there that needs to be perused and brought into the fold, especially in communications and certainly medical, nonstop with medical. Communications, medical, and of course with transport, well, you don't collect trucks the way you do bandages or radios, but still, if we're always looking for additional pieces of equipment. You know what? Thank you. On that note, I know that we're going to jump around a little bit here. Anybody got some bucks? Anybody got a few dollars? Where are you going to buy a new car? Were any of you going to buy a new car? I'll tell you what. I got something for you right now. In fact, maybe not a new car, but best price in the country right now. Now, guys, one of our guys bought a BTR 60 for $19,900. Remember, several months ago now. OT64 Scott, ex-Czech Army, APC, eight-wheel drive. This is if you've seen them, you just once you see the picture, go over to eBay. Go to military vehicles. Scroll through the scroll, and there's a beautiful photo essay of this piece of equipment. It is available in Georgia, and buy it now for $45,000 or make an offer. Now, when you take a look at this is a show-grade vehicle, and that really is not bad considering what you pay for a big-butt heavy truck right now. And instead of a big-butt heavy truck, you've got yourself a full armored personnel carrier with swim capability. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yes, it is a booty. It is, of course, they put. It's got marker number 512 for you guys if you're looking at it right. Now, that's the first one, and that's the most reasonably priced. But then I have to smile because you see, they've also got. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. He's got a BRM-1K. That's a BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicle. The BMP, guys. Remember the BMP? The scourge of the Soviet army at the end of the Cold War. Waves of these would be coming at you with the main gun going blazy, blazy, boom, and of course smoke dischargers. And it could swim, and it's really a cool, nimble little vehicle. Unfortunately, she does have those fuel tanks in the rear that are kind of unique. Always remember that. But again, $89,500. I know none of you are going out of your way to buy that one necessarily, but this is a show grade / read Class A vehicle ready to run. And everything's there, internally and externally. The main gun, I'm sure, has been demilitarized. But still, the basic idea of what the main gun does and how it does it is all right there. So if the main gun were replaced with another main gun, it would not be a problem. And again, these are unique vehicles, to be quite honest. Obviously, the lesser vehicle would be the better price, but that's not the only one. So if you get over to eBay, go through the scroll and look at the military vehicles. That's where you want to jump in military vehicles, and there'll only be 2 pages that'll pop up. There's only 2 columns that'll show up. However, there's one more item, and I've talked about this, guys. There is an M985 truck. This is an 8x8. Now, you've seen these, and this is a beast. This is an actual armored truck. This is an armored transport. 8-wheel drive, 8 axles. It's got the cab far in front of the front wheels. The cab is designed so that if it were to hit an IED or a mine or whatever, that cab is supposed to blow out and away from the vehicle so that the crew, survives. Okay, it's intentional. Now, these things went out the back door for a song and a dance a while back when Gov Liquidation was in charge. Now, when you go look at the picture, you'll understand we're talking a beastie boy here. This is something that can drive over other cars and not even know that they're, it could walk over a car without any problem, not know it's there. It's just, you know it, but it wouldn't be very much of an insult, okay? $35,000. Now, this vehicle, I know, I've already read this on the air. These vehicles, government price was $276,000 a truck. And this is one of those, I'm sure, that slid out the back door with govliquidation.com. It's located out in Huntington Beach, California, and it's $35,000. It has 1,200 miles on the odometer, and I don't doubt it. 500 horsepower. All fluids are drained for transport, and the batteries are out for the moment. Come by and check it out. Serious buyers only. Well, duh. Need to be a U.S. citizen because they can't sell it outside the U.S., and U.S. sales only, of course. But this is a private sale. 35 of the 3 vehicles, if I had to spend some money, this would be the vehicle I'd buy. I like that APC, and the BMP is just cool. But to be quite honest, this M985 would be a much more useful vehicle for a whole lot of other work that needs to be done. And you know what? You can't buy you can't buy the tires. Well, yeah, I'll say shouldn't be $35,000 for 8 tires, but it'll probably be pretty stinking close if you include the rims. These trucks are a god-awful price. They're an outrageous price. And they slid them out the back door, and it makes no sense because they got the guys you're driving rattle trucks that are, long mileage and are not built the way these trucks are, and they got rid of these. So, again, shame on them, but piss on it. They're already outside the system, so if you want to check it out, go over to eBay, go to military vehicles, and then punch in a search for M985 truck 8x8. It's located in, and of course you can go just military vehicles. There's only 2 scrolls to go through, only 2 pages. And this is going to pop up, and it actually is the best buy of everything on the page. Beyond the deuce and a halves, beyond everything else, this outclasses and outshines all the rest in terms of, what it can do, how it can lift and how it can move. So just something to think about. By the way, a lot of these also did have an onboard personal crane for the deck. Now, I don't know if was taken off this one or it may be folded down. Again, got to find out more by calling the guy that owns the thing. So just a heads up there, but that price is right on that vehicle. We are at the top. Should be hearing the music. First hour is over for everybody out there. Again, touching base on some unique technology. Again, the OT64 Scott was, SKOT, is the equivalent to the BTR-60, overlapping in between the BTR-60 and 70. The Czech vehicle was more popular when it came out than the BTR-60 in general, and had all the more modernized bells and whistles on it. And the Czechs were giving the Russians a run for their money with these vehicles, which is why they've only recently come out of service. A lot of these are still in service at one point or another, but for what it is, amazingly enough, a lot of the parts are American, or at least American compatible with counterpart components. That's because during the Cold War, we were getting screwed left and right. General Motors sold a lot of the patents or a lot of the product lines over to the other side, so did Ford. And because of that, it's amazing how many interlocking parts are readily available off the shelf for vehicles and equipment unique or heavy like this, including the power plants, which is really fascinating. So we are at the top. We should be hearing the music. It is Friday here on Radio. Plus the Republic. This is the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're on the march. And we'll be back in a few minutes. Second hour of the Intel Report coming up. Hell, you keep collecting all of the equipment we're talking about. Put a pretty nice mech unit together. Not any problem at all. Not just an idea. Might want to work as a team and a group and tag a few more of these, and that way you'll be that much better prepared. We'll be back right here at Liberty Tree Radio. Second hour coming up.
Let's just be in our home and boys, let it go where all can see. Lead it with our devotion, boys, call it the Liberty Tree. It's a free, and the strong hold free. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking for, always pay the time will see. Never give up the struggle, always fight for the liberty tree. It's the tall old tree and the strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys, stand against all tyranny. Hang the lamp of freedom, boys, high on the liberty tree. It's the tall old tree and the strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. It will grow as we grow, boys, it will be as strong as we. We will cling to our faith, boys, taking the liberty tree. It's the tall old tree and the strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
Liberty's Guardian.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt. Put men of God in jail. Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children will be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? Oh, sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
I think they were thinking more pleasurable times when they gave you a map that showed you where to find those guys in Virginia that are the blame. Find your ombudsman. Find a Virginia local ombudsman by selecting a county or city in the box below, and we'll give you all the information about where to find him. Yeah, well, people are looking for some of these people, not just the ombudsman, but, others. And all the information is, let your fingers do the walking through the internet pages, and it's all right there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kortke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines and occupied territories, southwest, north, northeast, and central. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4MG.com, AM and FM micro stations, AM and FM macro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet Hallmark and Golden Spike technologies, east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in all points of the compass, but especially the lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson and Conus. That's right. In addition, the outlying states, the outlying two territories, and the clock. Right now it's 6:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is, that's right, it is Friday already. It is Cinco de Mayo Day / also Quartermaster Friday. It is the 14th of February. It is the 12th year of Open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K, 2020, Old Earth calendar, 2020 year of conflict, year of battle. Now, of course, we did touch on what was going on just with a few vehicles at eBay. Some people go, oh, man, eBay, I hate them. And I understand why you do. Completely, not a problem. However, there's always interesting things that are popping up here and there. And I would point out that one more project they have there, they have an M151 Ford Mutt, last of the what you would call the Jeeps. The guy has all kinds of spare parts. It's $3,000 is what he's asking. And if you have an M151 Ford Mutt project, you already have a couple of vehicles, and you want to add one more to the fleet, it's a good way to put another utility truck online with your gang, your pack of rats, or in this case, pack of mutts. That's the Ford Mutt, M-U-T-T. And definitely, if you take a look at the inventory and talk to the guy, there's a lot of extra, knickknacks, widgets, and useful items, including he threw in another motor for for the package. You're going to have to do some work on it, but it is definitely something that is a useful machine if you already have the 151s in service, okay? So there's a solution, not just complaining about the problems. And all those are over at eBay. Look at the scroll. You'll find out. You never know what's going to pop in there. I want to check to see what all is available and handy and see if it makes sense for you. It's just that simple. Also, again, it is Quartermaster Friday. The interesting thing is that with the supply chain with gas masks, everybody immediately, there's a whole bunch of questions about gas masks. I guess we've done a lot of work on this in the past. We've run into this as a cyclic compression issue when all of a sudden something happens that we kind of warned you there'd be something on the horizon. The Corona beer, Mexican beer plague that we have. See, I told you, don't buy Mexican beer. Nobody was listening, but they did. So now we have the coronavirus disease, and the rest is, history now. But because of this, we're seeing all of the NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical defense technology being scarfed up or adjusting in price to availability. The only thing I can say is roll with the punches and find the best prices, cherry pick between everything. MaineMilitary.com, MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com is your first best choice of places to go, but then there are other sources like the ones we mentioned that are available, and that includes military clothing for the M10M filters, and just bought a pile of those from them. If you need M10M or M10 filters for your Czech or East German mask, that's the place to go, okay? Military clothing, 10 sets of filters for $16, $1.60 a set, and it's the only thing they have left, really, as far as anything that would be critical first-level items that you'd need, filters or masks. So it's the only filter they've got, and that's it. You can't really get lost or confused in what I'm telling you about. Now, no, I'm not even going to get into butt plug. I mean, butt gag, butt plug, whatever the hell that character's name is. It's Tempest in a Teapot time, guys. They're just fiddle farting with everybody. It's like the rest of the spin your wheels garbage. We got enough to do as it is. We won't be having a conversation with them. We're just going to deal with getting rid of the problem, as they say. Doesn't make any difference what name they attach to that one. Okay. Next, before we go any farther, okay, you know what? This is interesting. And Edward, if you're right there, and hopefully you might be right available, Kalita-Think. Play the official video. Okay, it is there in the cycle over at YouTube. It takes Ed a minute for him to get it plugged in. Kalita-Think, bracket, official video, bracket, 720p. This is, again, somebody finally posted the official video. You're not going to see the official video, but I'm fascinated by audio quality. And since I've done a lot of radio, but I've been into music. Everybody's been into music. You're always paying attention to product and customers, okay? And also the bands, obviously, that produce. And how people that are customers will emulate or do things for the band or, do cover pieces, whatever. But in this case, this is the original two-woman band. And obviously what made this famous was the first of the John Wick movies. And you have to pay attention. It's in the beginning of the bathhouse shootout scene, which turns into the red circle, bar shootout scene. The music itself is interesting. And actually it's kind of, again, it's, you'd call it deco. It's not disco, but more of a deco techno kind of piece. But Kalita-Think official video. The quality of the music itself is what's fascinating. Again, clarity, recording, whatever. But the performance is interesting too, as far as again how well this thing was executed as a studio piece. I mean, it doesn't always work out that way, even in studio. So, other stuff going on. Well, we'll see if we get that music request in there. We may or may not. Let's see. Next, I had one more shopping list item I want to get out there because we are headed to the weekend, and Friday is just, I can then if you go over to Guns and Gadgets, they should have the follow-up, or they do have a piece on there, but it's weird. Somebody's asking me, why is it they can't find it in the scroll? Well, pay attention to the title. Don't worry so much about the image. But if you go to Guns and Gadgets, this has to do with the 8 states that are working on an interlocutory / a support agreement, a consortium, if you might call it, of pro-gun states that are going to basically start to draw the line to an even greater degree than anything that we've seen to date. Now, this is a good thing, I mean, to a degree. We should need to do it, but the most important aspect of this is that in whatever form, maybe this is somewhat spontaneous, who knows, maybe it's planned, but it doesn't make any difference. It is a positive thing, and again, creates that demarcation line that is needed if you are going to get into a shooting war with the enemy. You need to know who's who in the zoo. You need to know who, friend, foe, friend, foe, friend, foe. It's what you're looking for with uniforms and equipment, confirming who you're possibly going to be shooting at. So before that happens, you got to confirm the target. Well, again, go over to Guns and Gadgets, and when you do get over there, check out it's about 3 videos back now, and it's a happy note. Actually, he points out, hey, for a change, we got something good going on, which is true, okay? There's no doubt about that. The big thing here is that this is not a surprise. I've mentioned this already, Senator, it is that I told you so, because we'd already been discussing this last year, that there was a trend towards certain states moving in the right direction away from the Soviets. Now, this is not going to make the Soviets happy, and so certainly they are going to do something to hurt the situation. They're going to get desperate. When they do, not a problem. We can deal with them. We're going to have to deal with them and neutralize the problem as quickly as we can, okay? There is another one, actually. Hold on here. Thank you. Appreciate that. Why this isn't showing up on the Guns and Gadgets scroll, but it's only 8 hours old. It's about 12 minutes long. Huge giveaway plus ATF in Alabama pushing for registration, safe storage, and more. Now, I'm going to remind everybody again that the bat faggots and the FBI and all these agencies are right in the middle of all of this gun grab crap. Okay, all this gun grab garbage is going on. But as it is, they're starting to show their pirate colors, and they're obviously siding, as we would expect. I mean, after all, the ATF has to stay in business. That's one of the reasons they needed Waco when they did it, because everybody was talking about doing away with the ATF. And so what Bush did, because everybody was getting pissed at Bush, everybody was getting pissed at the bat faggots, they were doing all kinds of scurrilous things and lying through their teeth and attaching people, to court process so that they had to waste resources and time, which made people even more pissed. Well, the bat faggots have shown their teeth now and their colors and shown what side their flag is flying on. It's not a surprise for me, but for everybody out there, if you go to Guns and Gadgets, actually, if you go to YouTube, you're going to be, it looks like I can't find it in the scroll when I actually go to the page. It's only 8 hours old. Huge giveaway plus ATF in Alabama pushing for registration, safe storage, and more. It's 12 minutes and 7 seconds long. Take the time. Get over there to YouTube. It's Guns and Gadgets. In fact, let me double-check, see why that isn't showing up. I'm going over to the Guns and Gadgets page because I know everybody's going to say, Mark, it's not there. Well, hold on a second. Let's see what's going on and why it's not showing up. Okay, it's uploads, play all. If you have to go down, breaking news updates, of course, go down. Yeah, that's weird. That's the schedule on his page is hiccuped a little bit here. Uploads, play all. Okay, well, it's where you see it, down below, very bottom line almost. Huge giveaway plus ATF in Alabama pushing And again, I'm going to pull right up to it. There we go. ATF in Alabama pushing for registration, safe storage, and more, ? So take the time. I'm doing while I'm talking here on the air. As soon as I find something like this, oh yeah, that's going right over to Facebook. That's going to go over to Pinterest. There we go. And do it as quick as you see it. That way you don't forget. Okay, it's just that simple. That way you don't forget. And Liberty Tree Radio in Dig Dug and Doug Dig and Ping Wing and Ping Pow and Ping Pong and also Militia Operations. There we go. And let's not forget, last but not least, Patriots. There we are. So take the time, plug it in everywhere you can. Also, before I go farther, over to the Colonial Marines. There you go. Got it over there on your page. Everybody can now watch it and share it and go, oh, this is why we need to hang the bastards. The other thing here about that with Guns and Gadgets, don't forget, support them however you can. It's great that we've had the support we have had in our network. I think a lot of people are stepping up to the plate. And the people that are, standing in the breach are doing their part, doing what they're supposed to do, staying focused. And yes, as the author of Guns and Gadgets, he goes, man, this is a lot of reading. Yeah, and we still, just think about this. We covered guns, technology. Over the years, after a while, there's certain things it's like, well, I'm going to pair it off. You got other people doing a better job as far as it's what they want to do. It's their niche. That's why we reference Guns and Gadgets. Saves us a lot of time because they're doing all the work needs to be done. They still aren't getting everything done, and I don't expect one source to be the source, the only source, but this is a good, focused area of operation. It is a resource that you need to use, take advantage of, and head on down the road making the decisions based upon the information base. Sorry about that. Anyway, they're not happy about this either. You can tell in the background. So for everybody out there, again, Guns and Gadgets, and it's a little long. I haven't had a chance to even watch this all the way through. Thank you to Reg for actually passing that off during the program here. Thank you. And that is posted over on the Facebook page from Mark Corky, and I'll throw it over on all the others here in a minute when we get a chance. One of the other things to remember here is the bat faggots are going to be coming out of the chalks and popping up in a lot of locations. That should not in any way, shape, or form be a surprise for any of you. These clear as a $3 bill pedos that are in these operations, guys. That's what they live for: is confiscation of guns, destruction of freedom, and they work for the ring knockers, whose mission right now it is to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and to destroy the Bill of Rights. They're on the mission with that. I told you before. When things kick off in Virginia, the bat faggots, the FBI, Homeland Security will be side by side with the Virginia State Police to attack Virginians. Period. It's already going on. They're already planning. And we're trying to find the class facilities. Where are they training? Where are they practicing to do this? So we need to find out. And Virginians are going to have to do most of the work. I've actually done some Google surveying in places that we would suspect right from the get-go. There's nothing you can do from as far away as we are unless we got on the ground there and did exactly what we were talking about yesterday about land surveys. Now, I can still let your fingers do the driving through the Google page, because I can get on the internet there, go to the Google Drive section and watch on the road, and I can actually observe something. If you saw something in Virginia, you could tell me to go to, fill in the blank, over to Google, get in their little automobile on the road thing, and drive to this coordinate, this location, and I could see what you can see. Now, that is true, and it's something that we didn't have to spend a dime on. Somebody said the other fools spent the money on it, and they've provided us with a vast intelligence base that is very useful. Now, whether or not they're going to alter it or sidebar or do something with it, who knows? But guess what? It's one of those things where it's a quick tool, easy to use, plug in, ID it. Now, when you physically get into the area, start to benchmark and cross-reference to see how accurate your database was. Were the images altered in any way? Was there something that was cropped or fictionally, fabricated to conceal something? That's why you got to be careful moving into an area when you're operating. Okay, this is why you still have to have reconnaissance units. And you better get good at reconnaissance. You better be really good at reconnaissance. And you better be thinking all the time, all points of the compass when you're in motion. And even though recon may have done its part, once main force moves in, still got the same problem. Remember, pay attention. So, let's see, we're almost to the bottom. I think if we could, Kalita, think, and the actual release video, the original, it's a studio piece that's actually done, but it was the official video. If we could, we'll use that for a bottom of the hour break piece. And think, or Kalita-think, official video. Somebody finally posted, apparently, and it is interesting. I was looking at this last night. Interestingly enough, it's true. Nobody had posted the original video. It's nowhere on YouTube until somebody who was not with the band finally posted the actual video, or apparently put it back up, because YouTube's been doing some really garbage stuff anyway. We don't know what the hell's going on with those fools. All you do is use it while you can, and when it's gone, piss on it, dust off your cloak, dust off your shoes, go find some other way to get it done. Just that simple. But run it while you can, because it's on somebody else's dime. Okay? Just that simple. Next, now we'll get into what was the other question of the day here with regard to Virginia, because I had a number of other questions. Okay. Tazewell, first of all, I'm on radio, so it's, just think of it this way. If you see the big long horn of Virginia that goes out to the west, Tazewell is on the kind of like the bottom of that bay. There's kind of like there's a little spur. It has like almost like a little thumb, on the top of it, like a thumbs up. Looks kind of like a little thumbs up, the fist together, and there's a thumb, and the thumb slightly curled. That's Buchanan. Now, just to the right, the next county is Tazewell. And Tazewell is becoming the center of the Western operations activities, but mostly because, again, the bad guys are focusing on it. Now, Tazewell, of course, did say they wanted to do more than just the regular Second Amendment sanctuary statement, so they also were promoting militia operations. There are already militia in, and they have been for many years. Hell, they go back to the founding of the state. There are militia units that are in Virginia that have been around since the American War for Independence. They've survived the Civil War and were participant in the Civil War. Quietly, they went back, in country, or they hauled down as needed, and then have come up and risen to the occasion as needed. Wise, Scott, Washington, Russell, Tazewell, and Smythe are very, very active. And Wythe, it's kind of funny, there's Smythe and then there's Wythe, W-Y-T-H-E. Wythe is rugged territory, and still a lot of militia, a lot of people that have had us up in that neck of the woods. In fact, I think it was in Bland where I spoke in western Virginia, not West Virginia, but in western Virginia. We went up the back roads, down around a corner, up through the glen, so to speak, with the ironmongery and the old ironworks on the right, about probably 300 feet down. Spent the afternoon and evening speaking to the units there, and during the night the birds came through because it was kind of cool, and those little bear noses were smelling a lot of good stuff that was stuck up in the trees, but they were curious. So anyway, everybody slept, making sure you had a firearm on hand just in case the bears thought they needed to come inside and get hold of something to eat. Now, it probably wasn't going to nibble on you, but they're rather cantankerous sometimes, and they don't get the goodies they want. So anyway, Bland, just in case you guys are listening tonight, I want to say hi. And again, that's been a few years. But most of the other groups, like the 2nd Virginian Dragoon, is quite well established. And, of course, they were partially out of the four-county area, Rockridge, Augusta, Highland, and Bath. But they've expanded, and they have elements, I think, around most areas of the north and western counties. And I won't say they're in every county because there's only so many men involved, but they've actually recruited and built up very quietly a strong mechanized response unit that can deal with the problem when the time comes. So there's a number of other groups, too numerous to mention, nor do we know all of them. Another thing to remember, this is another thing that's going to create issues when it comes to the outbreak of hostilities in Virginia. Who's who in the zoo, friend, foe. So we're going to have to, again, you have to be precautionary when you're going into action. If somebody's kicking in a door and going house to house, it's going to be pretty obvious. Or if they're sieging a house and the black uniforms are dominant, you know you're going to be shooting the bastards. It's that simple. Doesn't matter what the other characters are wearing. They're all pointed towards that gun owner's house or a bunch of gun owners' houses in a neighborhood. They're going to get shot. And anybody helping to pitch in to shoot them is your friend. It's just that simple. So be ready for that. Another thing, again, there are certain places that are just going to be troublesome, and one of those, Bedford County, along with Amherst and Roanoke. And I mentioned this last night, but I had a couple of our friends that are in Bedford, in Bedford County, although I think they're more towards the south, towards Pittsylvania. But Pennsylvania is another part of the Red Banner area where you've got these polyps, these cesspools of Sovietization that are the cities. And in each case, the outlying counties like the edge of Bedford, Pennsylvania, Campbell, and Franklin, they have more in common, say south of the polyp in Bedford and north of what's on the edge of Pennsylvania. There's almost like this separate piece of real estate that's obviously no different from New York City versus the rest of New York or Chicago versus the rest of Illinois. These areas are in the same situation. They still have had positive or pro-firearms activities, but they've got a lot of enemy encampment that they're going to have to neutralize as hostilities develop, and they know it. This is another reason that those areas have become or should be known as priority targets for observation at this point in time, because it's most likely where you're going to see the bad guys pop out from when they do the gun grab. At the very least, there'll be support base elements. The primary maneuver elements, coming out of places like somebody was asking, what was the name of the location? AP Hill. That particular Mount/Urban Warfare Center is the one that everybody is now very, very much watching with a microscope. It is suspected that that is most likely one of the locations where they will be rallying. You have American-type churches. You have American buildings, American government buildings. When they're practicing to go after or do snatch and grabs on the county commissioners in a county like, say, Tazewell, that's the kind of place where they'd want to practice. Now, they may go so far, and this is something that, number one, Virginia did not happen in a vacuum. Virginia has been planned. The money that has come in from Bloomberg is also as much a distraction as anything, because the feds have to participate in a gun grab at the state level. There's no choice. In fact, they're perpetrating it. Trump's ATF, Trump's FBI, Trump's Homeland Security are married at the hip with the Virginia State Police and the MJTF operations that they have in a cooperation created. Okay, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be there. They will be there. They are going to be there. They are going to be lockstep, working side by side internally. So that's why this Urban Warfare Center / the American Knockout would be a very, very likely place. But they need to build mock-ups of the areas that they're going to be striking. In other words, if they're going to try to snatch and grab a county commissioner group for a particular show exercise, in other words, go in, grab them all, put them, bag them, black bag them, drag them off, put them in the retail helicopters, get them onto the end of the air and get them by shit hook somewhere else or fixed wing somewhere else, which they've done, and they're just going to do it to Americans the same way. They're going to want to have at least some closer simulators. So here's the other thing to watch with any of the mount or training areas. Watch for new construction on site, something that hasn't been there before. Now, here's what's really cool. If they build something like this, if you can first find the training site, guys, by being able to see the training, the mock-up, we will be able to figure out who the target is. Example, had we any image of from Fort Hood, of the very large mock-up / training aid that they created for practicing to attack the Branch Davidians, we would have known up to a year in advance. We could have figured out who was going to be the target simply by what it is that was constructed, and we could have gotten it through the Patriot circles so quick it would have made everybody's head swim. And guess what? The Branch Davidians were locked into the communication sphere of the Patriot movement in 100 different ways. So had the images been available, we could have, even without computer, although they were on computer, and because of that, and a lot of other people being on computer at that time, we would have gotten the image circulated. We would have been hunting for the location. We would have probably gotten a flare from somebody saying, "Well, that looks like the people I know out in Texas." Well, what people are you talking about? Well, they're called the Branch Davidians, but that looks like their church and their living quarters, their home. Really? Okay. Well, where are they located? See, this is how the communications would progressively develop in the shortest period of time. And now you know, hey, we're not kind of guessing. We know you are the target. You are who they're coming after. The same is true right now in Virginia. Right now in Virginia, the ATF, the FBI, Homeland Security, a bunch of other skunk punk alphabet soup agencies, the SRT from Virginia, along with the Virginia State Police in general, are training at one or more sites, preparing for the attack on Virginia's gun owners en masse. And if we are able to peg and identify the special construction, we can map it out. Let's put it this way: how many counties are there in Virginia? So if we know how many counties are in Virginia, we also know how many county buildings there are in Virginia, don't we? So we don't have to do hundreds or thousands. We have less than 100 to actually survey and compare notes. Get me a handful of pictures of the training site, and if it is a township that's the target, it wouldn't take you, hell, for that matter, you could do it mostly, literally through your computer with imaging through Google. Everybody goes, well, they might not have the exact picture, Mark. Well, yes, they do. You want to know why they do? Because guess what? They did all those drive-arounds from one end of the country to the other. And when you turn the camera to the left or the camera to the right, what do you get to see? You get horizontal imagery of whatever structures are in the area. And they drove into parking lots, and they drove down secondary streets, and they drove down 2 tracks. They drove everywhere, people. So you could probably within, I would say, it'd probably take you more than 2 hours, but you've got 95, specific, say county seat, buildings. Some of them would be at least likely because they're skyscrapers or, 10-story administrative buildings. But they do have that at AP Hill, for instance. They have an equivalent. And so if they decide to say, well, this is close enough because they're going to be snatching and grabbing only 5, 6, or 10, 12 people, then here's what we're doing and here's how we're going to ID them. The rats that are inside, the state police will be assisting to finger the individuals, or the sheriff's department will assist in fingering and grabbing the politicos for the for the kidnapping by the Fed and by Richmond. That would be very realistic. That they they could get away with it. It'd be close enough that they wouldn't care. And if they kill some of the regular peasantry / us in the process, they don't care. They never do about that. That wouldn't be relevant to them in any way, shape, or form. Remember, they've got that British Marine commander's attitude from before April 19, 1775. If they're going to come out to get the guns, they got to wag their Masonic weenie in everybody's face. They got to get the old phallus moving around to smear it in people's faces. To do that, they hurt and maim or kill people. They don't care. This is wag your weenie time. This is like all the other garbage. And then they'll go, oh, we were surprised. Oh, we didn't know. Oh, we never expected that. And it's all lies. Just understand, it's all just the usual pack of lies. Now, another thing somebody was asking me about is Culpeper as opposed to Fairfax, which, by the way, both those you should recall we've talked about extensively. Culpeper and Fairfax are way up towards Washington, D.C. In fact, they're right around the corner or just across the river from the District of Criminals. Now, both of these are pro-patriot right now as far as the counties go. So you have the same problem that we've seen before, where you've got, like, the Arlington area, and then you've got Fairfax County, and then you've got Culpeper, which really doesn't have anything vomitous in it. But I would remind you that it still doesn't mean, especially since that neck of the woods is close to Washington, D.C., remember, in half-hour increments, 1-hour increments of driving time, you had all kinds of clandestine spook and kook administrative sites all through that area, or, again, defensive sites, security locations for getting out of the Capitol and being away from the epicenter of an event, or to a place where you have bunkers, fortifications, secure command and control, blah, 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 blah. So those areas are still question marks and up for grab, because you don't know what kind of maggots are going to be coming up from underground. What's below your feet, so to speak. The other, Rappahannock County is another one. We have a lot of patriots in that county. In fact, it's another place years ago, back in the late 94, when we knew that they were planning mass arrests. I had a series of meetings with individuals from Washington, D.C., and from the Capitol, actually, and there were a number of different representatives from different local governments, and we met in Rappahannock County at a series of quiet locations addressing what we were going to do because we knew it was coming, and of course we also met with congressmen and senators and had them carry back the demand, hey, we know that you're going to plan for mass arrests. What's going on? Of course, the senators and the congressmen all did the skeptical, like, oh, you're just getting all nervous. So when they wobbled back to Washington and they made their official requests in writing about the proposed mass arrests, and the FBI refused to respond, they were first indignant, and then they were scared. In fact, the two senators that submitted the paperwork were rather blabbering for a couple of days. And that they were indignant, they were blabbering then. But then they started to get nervous because it was the deafening silence that told them that we were absolutely right. So this neck of the woods has seen a lot of the first actions, even though you don't hear as much. Virginia has been very, 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 very active in the Patriot effort for as long as the country's existed, obviously, but especially in this, versus the Red Terror / the communists. I think everybody understands that Virginia is being served up on the menu as the first helping of human flesh that they think they're going to send into the grinder, that they're going to just walk over. Every county better dig in and better be ready to put down as many of the black uniform knuckle-dragging punks as they can in any opportunity they get. And always try to make it advantageous. If you're the defender, don't play fair. Pick them off 1, 2 here, 5 there, sentry here, radio operator there, whatever you can get your hands on. The wretched machine, for lack of operatives, will grind to a halt. So anyway, I don't think it's changed as far as Rappahannock or Culpeper or Madison. We've had and by the way, also I want to say, this is an area. This is why I've had a lot of questions. Just to the northwest is West Virginia. And West Virginia has traditionally been one of the best hosts whenever I've traveled around the country, in terms of we didn't usually use meeting halls, although they did use them to a degree. Most of the meeting events that we'd have would be out in the middle of nowhere, would actually be with the militia formations, 2, 3, 5,000 people at a time, certain number of family members. Again, West Virginia is pretty much on tenterhooks right now. And the only good thing is there's just enough of a conflict, because they do have at least a Republican governor in theory. We don't know how stable or what kind of spine he actually has. We'll find out when the shooting starts. But as it is, it wouldn't make any difference. West Virginia is probably one of the toughest and strongest states on the East Coast, as far as pretty much staying the course. They don't have a whole lot of risk or threat situations going on inside the state. They have on their frontier. You got to look at it from West Virginia's perspective. They are highly motivated to be prepared to assist Virginia, because they don't want it bleeding back over into their state. And if they let things go crazy in Virginia, let's say that this escalates, they don't want it for the war to fight back to their border. If they're smart, they will assist Virginia in whatever way they can, and the Virginians as they fight. and they in turn will support them so that they can keep the conflict and start to push it to the coast or push it to the cities, push it towards Washington and keep it where it belongs, away from them. So West Virginia is highly motivated, and again, if you haven't seen the notifications and some of the stuff they're doing with the Guard and the orders, the edicts that they've given, go look them up. They are starting to cut tendrils with the Fed and with the Pentagram on overseas deployments. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of pissing match on that, and then when the one Masons are confronted by the other Masons, the Grand Lodge Poobah will step in and give them the oh yay, oh yay, oh yay, and tell them what to do. But they might not listen because everybody's understanding that, well, everybody's been infiltrated by a whole bunch of skanks. Either that or the ones who are in management are showing their real colors, and a lot of the people who thought maybe there was something else going on, they will have their epiphany. And then they will realize, just like what we saw in 94, everybody's going to realize the jig is up. They're going for the gusto. Good. Let's get this thing over with. Let's do it right. So another thing, Pennsylvania, you got Wolf. He's a problem, but he's really just a representation of the kosher mafia and the other filth that are there that are going to have to be cleaned out. Everybody knows it. So again, Pennsylvania is on tenter. They're on tenterhooks for a different reason. They're another war zone. New York is going to be an automatic war zone. Pennsylvania, you're going to be plugging their hind end left, right, up, and down, and they can try to puff up all they want, but they are outnumbered. A lot of people are really, the cop shops and the state police have made so many enemies that there's going to be no kindness shown when this thing breaks out. And a lot of people, like in Pennsylvania, is kind of like the same thing we see in Michigan. To be quite honest, as far as the order of battle goes here, guys, Michigan has a lot of people who could vote. We're not bothering. Why? Well, because it really doesn't make any sense to show any support for a system that has no support for any of us, and in fact is just going to plan on stealing more money, and in no way, shape, or form has any of our interests at heart. But also because of the attitudes, again, the Ron Paul situation is the best example. It really is. It was the straw that broke the camel's back as far as eliminating a lot of people from bothering or wasting their time with the election. All the rest, everybody knows, is dog and pony show, pickle, smoke, and mirrors, and has been for quite some time. But when they treated Ron Paul the way they did, there were people that actually had come back because they knew Ron Paul. They had confidence in Ron Paul. But not even giving him a seat at the table or in any way, shape, or form any kind of voice demonstrated that we have no voice. Therefore, why bother? And, of course, the logic of all these twits that are these, basically the other communists, the Republicans, was that, where are you going to go? How about down the road and nowhere with you? And they still can't figure that out. If you pay attention, the Trumpites are doing the same garbage. They've completely drank the Kool-Aid. Well, yeah, Donald Trump has screwed 500,000 gun owners that were bump stock owners, but where are you going to go? And it's like, anywhere but where you are. And don't come down the road pestering me because I'll put a bullet in your hind end just as fast as the other fools. Because if you're just going to act like a stupid communist and a lemming communist, then we have nothing in common anyway, idiot stick. And that doesn't seem to sink in, but it's one of those things where these useful fools, it's like I've said many times, the frothing at the mouth hyper-communists are deadly. But what has made them deadly is the idiot moderate. Were it not for the useful idiot moderate, then 100 million people wouldn't have died the way that they did. However, here's the problem. The other mistake, everybody else, which makes up the majority, should have put both those stinking moderates down and those commies at the same time, and they'd have been much better off. Now, the moderates always end up in the ditch. But before they do, they betray everybody else because they believe that their feces doesn't stink, yours does. And they always betray you. Always. Former cops, former politicos, go right down the shopping list. We got a couple right now. Yeah, just because they make the noise doesn't think that we try. Don't think that we don't know what's been happening in the past and what's happening right now. That's why I told you in Virginia, well, the cops, as soon as things really went from push to shove, all of a sudden all the cops are following the orders of these communists to a T. All of a sudden, these cops are all working with the feds to go after the gun owners to a T. When they were there on 20 Jan 20 for that protest, everybody saw firsthand all those feds, swinging dinks there with all those state police swinging dinks with all those Richmond cops. And you were the enemy. And all those little brother lodge buddies, they were special. They like each other. They didn't like you. See how that works? So ignore all the lies and propaganda. That was to try and get the enemy into your camp and behind you. And I told you before, better a good enemy to my front than a bad friend to my rear. So you all better be thinking ahead the same way when the time comes. Now, we do have a lot of other work to do, and this weekend's going to be very, very busy. As you know, I would point out that we have had actually some pretty good success, especially here in Michigan. We've got, again, a bunch of Colonial Marine detachments that are being added that are expanding the CMM in Michigan. We still have the meetup that I don't think they settled a date. So we have an additional Colonial Marine Militia division that they want to expand. It's for administration. When you get so large, you have to have the upper tier management mechanism in place so that when you expand and move into combat operations, you have the infrastructure to be able to function in larger numbers. This is where the failing was on April 19th, 1775. This time around, we're not going to have that problem. Integrated command and control and communications so that we can execute actions to get rid of anybody coming out for the guns. That is a high priority, and it has to be multifaceted. No single action is the solution. It varies depending on where you are in the country, what assets and resources you have, obviously. The potential, what is your actual potential as a fighting unit? What can you do? All of these parts of the formula are tied into management, a limited straw boss management, being able to put the people on the ground where they need to be and then move them so that they can better block or funnel, channel, / then neutralize the enemy threat that's been sent out to confiscate the guns. Let nothing but a rumor of their destruction return to where they came from. But to do that, you've got to be better than the other side. You've got to have a plan. Anyway, real quick, attention, Second Amendment meeting. This will be at 75 North Broad Street, Hillsdale, Michigan, 49242 at 6 p.m. on February 15th. All welcome. Take the time if you can tomorrow night. Again, that's going to be at 75 North Broad Street, Hillsdale, Michigan, 49242. And that'll be at 6 p.m. on February 15th. All welcome. One more time, 75 North Broad Street. That's down the old area, the old storefront area of town. Again, 75 North Broad Street, Hillsdale, Michigan, 49242. That'll be at 6 p.m. on February 15th. All welcome. So take the time, come on down or come on up if you're in the top of Ohio or the bottom of Michigan. And again, that will be in Hillsdale. So, you got a conservative college. When I spoke there, they did everything they could to try to block the students from hearing anything I had to say. In fact, it was funny to hell to watch because kids were coming in, young guys were coming in, and girls, and they'd be trying to block me. Oh, there's nothing in there here. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. If you want to watch the speech that I did at Hillsdale, go over to Go over to YouTube. Go over and punch in Mark Carnke at Hillsdale College, and you can watch a big chunk of the original video there. I believe they have all sessions posted, but we did whole day's worth of speaking over there, guys, and I think I spoke 8 hours nonstop. So covered every subject and any subject you can imagine. We did have a break here and there, I believe. I'm pretty sure we did. But again, the media facility, the studio area that we used, which is obviously a stage, with an auditorium. Very nice facility, professional broadcast and recording capabilities, and it was funnier than hell to watch. Remember, I'm the audience. I get to watch all of you And it was fun to watch as characters came in, and there were arms flying around. And this is up in the glass fishbowl up above where they have all the media control, the editing monitors and all the camera monitors and everything. And you're watching these characters come in, and the other people are barking back at the other people, and there's hands that are flying in the air, and there's fists that are, and there's all, oh my God, they're hearing the truth, oh my God. Yeah, it's funnier than hell. So if you think it's really that conservative, let me tell you something. We know better. I knew better before you get there, okay? It's just how it works. The lie as opposed to the reality are always two different things. But it's kind of cool because you learn things in the process. So don't get frustrated. Just get over it. Get used to it. Next, and we're almost to the top. Oh, no, we are at the top right now, so there isn't going to be so much in next as, again, libertytreeradio.4mg.com. You can email me at liberty@provide.net if you have a music request, especially put music request in capitals, and then shoot it over to liberty@provide.net. God bless our republic. Death to the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're in the march. We're going to get out of the way. Militia Town Hall meeting coming up next, and then at 8 o'clock, the evening intel report. God bless. Bye-bye.
Plant the seed in our home, and boys, let it grow where all can see. Feed it with our devotion, boys, call it the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Say the sun was Lord, boys, water down its roots the deep, and the sun will always shine on the old Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along the fight, we're born free, we're born forever free. Thanks will pay the fight for boys, free the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking for, always pay the time to see. Never give up the stuff, the boys fight for the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys, stand against all tyranny. Hang the flag for freedom, boys, fly on the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. It's the power we grow, boys, it will be as strong as we. We will swing our way, boys, hang on the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located